and I had some connectivity issues. Anyhow, hopefully everybody's having a good day. If I cough, sniff, or sneeze, please forgive me. I'm trying to get over this cold. Thank you for the dialogue. Thank you for all the commentary. Thank you everyone for your support. If you have any specific questions or comments about a certain topic, try to look for the appropriate video and then comment in those videos, and then I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. I get back to about 98% of all the comments I actually am able to respond to. Anyhow, I want to talk about this new law in Tennessee. I don't know. Now, my disclaimer is I don't live in Tennessee. I don't work in Tennessee. I have never even been to the state of Tennessee. I hear good things about the state, but once again, I am blindsided as it comes to as I am blindsided to Tennessee law. Okay, but I did get some information, some intel, some newsworthy information that there's a new regulation, and I don't know if it's a bill, I don't know if it's a regulation, I don't know if it's a special code, but it looks like the Tennessee, there's a Tennessee post, right? Tennessee Peace Officer Standards and Training. They regulate, it looks like security professionals. Law enforcement professionals. I don't know they regulate security. I'm sorry, but I don't know. But what I do know is that there's a lot of law enforcement officers that moonlight as private security. Now, as long as it's within the agency policy, there's usually no issue with that. But what happens is the public gets blindsided, or not blindsided. They're confused sometimes because there's some off-duty law enforcement that might wear a hat or body armor that says police, yet they're having a badge that says private security on it. And it gets the public confused. It gets them really confused. It gets them annoyed. And it's to the point that somebody decided to push forward this type of regulation or legislation, and it looks like this is going to be something. There's another company. I guess they're in the new spotlight over there in Tennessee. They're called Solar something, Solar Security Services or Solar Right. I don't remember the exact name. But there's some controversy because it looks like some of the off-duty officers who moonlighted as security, they're wearing some like insignia from like law enforcement, and I don't think that there's any violation of any law. But once again, it was post or some agency, some legislator decided to pass this law that requires off-duty law enforcement to, when they wear some type of like police or law enforcement memorabilia or labeling, to wear this additional patch or wear this patch that says something to the effect of off-duty law enforcement private security. If you clicked on this video because of the thumbnail, that's the patch it looks like that they're going to have to wear. I think the bottom rocker, they're going to have to put the name of the agency that they work for, like the law enforcement agency, and then on the top portion of the patch, it's going to say something to the effect of off-duty law enforcement officer private security. If you notice, it's a bright orange patch. And guys, Tennessee has a certain way of doing things. They're kind of like California, but the opposite. If you're going to do stupid things, there's a stupid surprise for you. What I'm saying is, you got these cops that they have difficulty functioning as private security guards, right? They need a badge or some wording or labeling on their uniform that says police in order for them to motivate somebody into doing something that they ordinarily wouldn't do if it was just private security. Maybe they're moonlighting at a bar and they're a bouncer and they tell a patron to leave, and then the patron says, I'm not going to go anywhere, call the cops. But wouldn't it be nice to say, actually, I am a cop. Right here, it says police, and here's my badge and ID. Again, that's usually not the way you should deal with those situations, but I think that's what happened. That's what happened, because it's so much easier to show someone a police badge than to persuade them as a private security guard or private security professional, private security officer, to persuade them to go a certain way, to persuade them to leave. It's just so much easier just flipping the badge, right? If you notice, it's orange. It's kind of like, hey, idiots. Okay, guys, it's like hunting orange. And in a way, the Tennessee Post or the legislators kind of saying, hey, you stupid idiots. You don't want to listen? Now you're going to wear this big old bright orange patch. And guys, it's basically a retaliation patch. It's an idiot patch. You want to play stupid games over the years and create conflict in the community by giving others the false impression that you're onto law enforcement? We're going to play this stupid game and make you wear this orange patch now, okay? So I don't know exactly what the regulations state. Again, I'm not from Tennessee. I never worked in Tennessee. I'm not familiar with the laws. But it looks like pretty soon, or if not yet already, if you're going to wear police labeling or any type of clothing or article that identifies you as a police officer, you have to wear that additional shoulder patch, the orange patch. Okay? Now, I think it's kind of hilarious in a way, I guess, to get back at the cops that created all this conflict. But on another note, they're kind of putting a target on law enforcement, right? If you are a bad guy, all you got to do is look for the moonlighting security guard that has that orange patch, and chances are he's probably off-duty law enforcement. If I want to make a name for myself or my gang, then I'll take out that officer. Just think about it. And that police officer is not going to have the same resources. Some agencies might prohibit you from using all of your duty equipment, any of your duty equipment. You might not be able to wear your vest, right? You may not be able to wear your duty belt. You have to have your own. And what happens is some officers cut corners and they reduce their duty load. So they may not have any less lethal. Maybe one less magazine pouch. I don't know. Give me a second. Drink this water. What do you guys think about this law? I mean, this is gonna, and the later part of this video is gonna go back to my points of, if we don't police ourselves, then the regulators are gonna police us. If these law enforcement agencies would have a policy that prohibits, I'm not saying prohibits security work, because I think law enforcement should be able to work security. What I'm saying is the agencies that regulate the patches and badges that they wear off duty, so not to give others the impression that they are on duty law enforcement. I mean, think about it. If you're cruising down the street and I don't know, maybe you got carjacked or you're a domestic violence victim, and you see a guy wearing or gal wearing a police uniform, well, you're going to think that they're on duty law enforcement and report a crime to you. And just imagine, like, you really need help, and this person says, hey, you know what? I'm not on duty law enforcement. Go ahead and call 911. So I went all out of my way to make contact with you, to waste my time, and to decrease that reactionary gap time, just in case my assailant is closing the distance, all to hear from you that you're not going to be able to help me. Guys, these are just things to think about. Let me just go through the comments real quick. Ryan from the University Security and Training Solutions channels here. Good evening, sir. My good friend Mike from the Professional Security Journal is here. Thank you so much, Mike. Make sure you guys subscribe to both of these gentlemen's channels. So Mike from the Professional Security Journal says, interesting. I know in Nevada you can't even moonlight, period. Thank you, Mike. And Jason Davis. Okay, so the name of the company that kind of brought a newsworthy spotlight is called Solarin Risk Management. Solarin Risk Management, and it looks like they're appealing or they're presenting some type of case to the Tennessee Post. Jason says, the Tennessee Post Commission and the Tennessee Private Protective Services both fall under the Tennessee Department of Commerce and Insurance. Hey, thank you, Mike. Guys, I'm pretty sure Jason's located in Tennessee. I mean, only somebody from Tennessee would know this. But thank you. That's why I love this. I love the audience. University Security and Training Solutions says Texas off-duty gigs are common. Full uniform and patrol car, but paid for private companies and assigned to their property. Yes, and I think the same goes with Florida. Thank you. And then Mike says, like, if you see law enforcement at a hockey game or private event, basically they're authorized by the agency to be there, and I think the vendors pay the agency. Jason says there was a small department near Nashville that was handing out reserve commissions and turning around and making off-duty LE pay while there were no post officer. Jason, so is a reserve commission or a reserve officer, do they have the same status as a full-time law enforcement officer in the state of Tennessee? That's my question for Jason. Anton says, can they work security details in other cities while off duty? It's a Russian guy in Louisiana. It depends. It depends on the jurisdiction. If you guys don't know what we're talking about, just go to the beginning of the video and look at the title. Look at the title of the video. University Security says in their county, typically yes, but the off-duty gig has to be first offered to the local agency. Ooh, interesting. Okay. So that's Texas. So in Texas, if you want to hire a police officer, you have to go to the agency first. And then if nobody hires or there's nobody available, then you could find an independent off-duty officer. Robert, this is Tennessee. Thank you, Mike. Hey, Mike is being patient today. He's reiterating. He's answering some of the questions. Yeah, guys, we're talking about security and law enforcement topics here. Talking about new regulations for law enforcement working security in Tennessee. All right, I'm gonna take another water break. Just trying to get over this cold. You guys think this is like a form of like F you cops? Hey, you want to bring all this attention to your agencies? We're going to make you wear this big old bright orange patch. I think it is. I mean, come on, guys. They could have came up with a better design than this huge orange patch that you see as a thumbnail. Okay. The dinosaur of Sean is awakened today. Guys, I've been in security and law enforcement combined since 1998. I started as a law enforcement police explorer for the West Covina Police Department in 1997. I have been in this protection industry. I think we're at 24 years, 25 years. I don't know. I suck at math. That's why I chose this career path. But look, I've been noticing a lot of trends. The first trend that I noticed in California was the exposed carry exemption, right? In California, you are able to carry a firearm as long as it's exposed and as long as it's unloaded. This in the late 90s, early 2000s, there were some groups and they were exercising their Second Amendment right. They would go to Starbucks, coffee shops, private properties, and carry all these firearms with them, right? And and these were days when like you wouldn't read newspapers to get the news, right? Not the stone tablet, but actual newspapers. And in these newspapers, you would see all these guys sitting down at restaurants with their pistols unloaded, exposed. And as a young kid at the age of 18 or 19, I was thinking this is a stupid idea. You guys are doing this in liberal West, liberal left, California. You're going to bring too much attention to yourself. Now, as a Californian, without any type of permits or any exemptions, I need an open carry unloaded law, like an unload exemption for when I go to point A to B sometimes. Sometimes I just don't have time to put stuff in a rifle case, right? Sometimes I like to, I guess, train, right? Sometimes it may not be practical to have it may be more practical to carry all my equipment with me, right? The firearm in the holster. Obviously, it's more useful if it's loaded, but sometimes there's a utility for that, right? And I was just thinking, you guys are so dumb, they're going to come up with laws, okay? And what did they do? They brought all this attention to the media, and now there's laws against open carry. You cannot open carry without some type of permit. You can't open carry unloaded or loaded. You used to be able to carry open carry unloaded. But you cannot anymore. Now, the Second Amendment advocates, in which I'm a part of, and I have actually paid monetary dues to, I think it was CRPA or one of those organizations, or NRA, I don't remember, right? Pro 2A organizations, right? They're arguing their Second Amendment rights were violated, and again, yeah, they are, but you guys are bringing so much attention, and it does nothing for you, right? So looking back 15, 17 years ago, was this a wise idea to walk around open carry at Starbucks and places where you're not even allowed to open carry? So what I'm saying is, at Starbucks or these coffee shops, these diners, the individual owner, the managers, they can restrict you from entering the property as a citizen, right? They're going to refuse a service to you, and they're going to trespass you. You do not have a right to go on there, and that's California, at least, right? Could they have just done something different? And the answer is yes. Look, in California, it doesn't work like that. It might work in Texas, where you open carry and you have your protest, but it does not work in California. And these people that were pushing forward this issue did it. And again, there's the way that they were wearing their firearms. There's no utility in it. There's no purpose other than protesting their rights. That's it. And is there anything wrong with it? No. But timing is important. In California, it does not work out because you get the attention of all of these liberal legislators. Okay? Later on, I started law enforcement, and it was, the early 2000s was significant for me because I got in, and it was quite normal to beat up suspects, to slap them in the back of the head, to beat their ass. It was common. Now, I'm not saying that I did that. I'm not saying it's okay, but at the time I was thinking, this is not okay to do this. And even if you reported something, law enforcement, especially in that time period, a lot of them operated like gangs. You would report something, and they would say that you're lying, and then you get fired for allegedly lying, right? That's the culture in dangerous areas in California, and I know it was elsewhere. And I started thinking, this is going to get out of hand. Sooner or later, they're going to create some legislation, some additional training on de-escalation, and sure enough, all that is mandatory, and there's additional legislation regarding use of force. Guys, I saw it in the works. I saw it happening. With security, okay, you got security guards that are trying to pretend like cops. They're wearing these badges that say things that are not. They give themselves titles that are not really conducive with security rules, right? And all of a sudden, okay, you started seeing the enforcement of the badge and patch design in California. It has to be worn on the left breast portion of your uniform. We are our own enemies, guys. We really are. Now, I'm not going to admit guilt to this, but I was somebody that kind of pushed forward the gray area where you can carry a pistol. I'm sorry, you can hold on. You can carry a rifle on duty, a carbine on duty, a pistol that has a rifle cartridge, as long as you are able to qualify with that on the range. I did some videos on this, and I mentioned that this is a huge gray area because I have an official document from BSIS that state that they regulate the caliber and not the type of firearm, right? And they even try to push forward a long rifle permit. This was like 8-9 years ago, right? Now, I do make a lot of videos. I have over 1,000. All of a sudden, they passed new legislation that says you can only have certain calibers now. Okay? But it's still a gray area. So they eliminated 5.56, 300 black. What happened was I got into an argument with somebody at BSIS, and they told me that that 5.56 or 223 is not on the handgun roster. It's not on the California Department handgun roster for approved pistols. Because it's not on there, you cannot qualify with that on the range. You can't have that in your permit. Again, they arbitrarily made this up. And I asked them for the legislation that discusses this, and they were silent. The lady that I talked to couldn't even answer my question. And then within like a year and a half to 2 years, they passed that. And I was qualifying myself on the range. I still am a BSIS firearms instructor, and I was qualifying myself on the range because there's no law that says I couldn't at that time, period. Right? So heck, why do I need to go to somewhere else? Why do I need to pay the fees if I can just qualify myself? I was doing that. I got a call from BSIS telling me I can't do that. I asked them to cite me the source of legislation, and again, the lady, acting dumb and stupid, couldn't even cite that. But now there actually is legislation. So I'm not saying that I created this law. There's no evidence of that. In fact, I think in the legislative minutes, in all the hearings, my YouTube channel wasn't even mentioned. So I don't think I had anything to do with part of it. But it's possible, right? But it's something that I think that needed to be brought in light. I look at the risk and reward benefit, and this happened. Okay. So what I'm saying is, guys, don't be vagrant with the laws. Just because there's no law in place doesn't mean that it's a good idea to walk out there vagrantly and tell everybody I can do this, I can do that. Haha, there's no regulation against it, because sooner or later there is. Again, I'm kind of a dinosaur in security and law enforcement, and I've seen these laws evolve. And at the beginning points of time, I even told myself, I had a discussion with myself, like, this is a stupid idea to walk around Starbucks when you're not even allowed to go there because the tenant tells you can't, the landlord tells you can't, the manager tells you can't, and then you're refusing to leave, which brings attention of police. If you're told to leave, then leave. But they're making a scene for themselves, and they're bringing all this attention. These protests work in other states. They don't work in California. It worked against everybody else. So that's all I got, guys. I'm looking forward to the content, the dialogue, and your input. If you're from Tennessee, I definitely want to hear from you guys. All right, guys, take care.